Hi, I'm astrologer Penny Dix. Welcome to our midweek Wednesday Astro Witter. Now, the energy today is interesting because, of course, we have Mars, the planet of energy, action, assertion, aggression, arguments, accidents, internal struggles, squaring off with Pluto, our planet of transformation, our planet of power to the people, because Pluto is in Aquarius. And Mars, of course, is newly arrived in Scorpio. The sign, interestingly, that Pluto rules with Mars. So they are kind of, in some ways, they enjoy this rather challenging and antagonistic angle that they find themselves in today. Now, this energy has been building up all week, but I think the timing is good that it's actually today, because here we are today, Wednesday, the 24th, in the literal kind of eye of the energy of the Mars-Pluto square. And I think it's important to firstly be aware of how much this energy will have been building over the last few days. We've had an extraordinary few days of astrological energy. The rest of the week sees no major transits of any particular note. But actually, thank goodness, because I think this will keep us going, because not only do we have the Mars-Pluto square today, but of course we had the new moon partial solar eclipse in Virgo on Sunday, and that was followed immediately by the autumn equinox. And we are at the moment in this wonderful kite formation, which I'm going to endeavor to show you without losing the page. So you can see it really clearly there. It's just awesome. And I think what's also interesting to look at is this sort of mini trine that you get at the top that makes the top of the kite, because that is going to be an ongoing energy that we're going to have for some time. Now, the square between Mars and Pluto, you can see that red line that goes from Scorpio up to Pluto. So, okay, well, first of all, how is it for you? How is it for all of us? If I check in with myself, I did decide to make this a day at home because I don't want to get into the territory of taking risks on the roads, for instance, or just taking risks walking in unfamiliar territory, which my mobility is not very good with. However, it's not just about what can happen, which is not nice, on the outside, on the exterior. I actually think it's really important with this transit to pay much more attention to what is happening within, because this can highlight internal struggles that, if we pay attention to them, give them our full conscious attention, then the Mars-Pluto energy doesn't have to be enacted out in the physical world in a way that makes us stop and have to think, whoa, what is this about? So I think looking at this energy on an internal level is a really good place to start, because, Scorpio for a sign is very much about the shadow and that going within energy. And so to use this square against Pluto, that is all about the inner transformation as well as collective transformation. Now, as I sort of settle on that point there, I'm thinking how interesting that in the point of time when this aspect is exact, the moon is in Scorpio conjunct Mars, therefore also squaring Pluto. And the moon can also represent the people. There is something here about, and I think we're seeing it acted out on the world stage, a collective shock and horror and anger against many things that are going on the world stage. Things that got said at the UN Council meeting yesterday, which, depending where you fall on that stream of consciousness as to whether you're going, yes, needs to be said, or whether you think, oh my God, what is being said? And on one level, that is an irrelevance, but it's not, because what it is providing us with is this intense energy build-up that we had yesterday through these energies to push us all on an internal level to think outside the box and actually to think about, if we don't like or don't resonate with what may be being said by some of our world leaders, how do we actually manage that on an internal level? What does it stir within us that maybe needs going into in more detail to look at why we react in the way that we do to the words and the rhetoric of others that we may not agree with? Because that is where the power lies in this aspect, in this square. It lies in that energy of confrontation, of looking at this dynamic in a very conscious and collective way and saying, what do I have to do on an internal level that in some way aligns me with the divine purpose, if you like, of what is meant to unfold on the timeline of which we are on. Now, also, if we think about the other energy that is happening simultaneously with this square, we have the sun in Libra at the base, or the top, whichever way you want to look at it, of this kite. And it's forming this grand trine, this grand air trine between Uranus and Pluto. The sun also, and I'll come back to that, the sun also, of course, is in opposition yesterday, today, and tomorrow with Saturn and Neptune. Saturn rules institutions, governments, laying down the law, saying this is the way it should be done. But it's in Pisces, it's on shifting sands really, because Pisces is the ocean, it's the flow. And Saturn is trying to nail down or fasten down through the energy of the sun in Libra a way through to harmony for the collective, where we can make sense of the various dialogues that are being expressed, all the different viewpoints. You can take this down on a sort of smaller scale to what might be enacting out in your own life. But it's looking at all the different aspects and angles of people's attitudes or feelings ideas about the best way forward for humanity and for the planet and for our borders, for where do we go from here? We are teetering on the edge with this energy of explosive energy somewhere this week with our hotspots. We've seen incursions into Eastern European airspace by Russian MiGs. And basically, America gave Europe permission to deal with this incursion in whatever way we felt fit. That's all very well. But we have to think of the consequences of any action which is knee-jerk, supported by this Mars square Pluto energy, where people that are unaware of being caught in this energy can react very stridently and with external events and actions. That's why I'm suggesting we take it on some level into our internal world to really, if your particular triggers are being triggered today in whatever area of your life, even if it's what's going on out there on the world stage, take a step back and think, why is this making me so angry? What is it in my psyche and soul that feels so unvalidated or unheard around this energy? What can I do? Do I need to research these different points of view more fully before I leap to conclusions? Because sometimes within reaction, we are leaping to ultimate conclusions which tie in and link in with our belief systems, which are not necessarily well thought through or up to date with where the planet finds itself in now. So these are things to really think about on a deep inner level. And I think the opposition of the Sun to Saturn and Neptune is showing how much the Sun is really trying to shine light on the depths of the unconscious, to enable Saturn to make what is unconscious concrete or conscious, and to, in some ways, empower Neptune's energy at this world axis trigger point in Aries of 0 degrees to try and find a way to find the healing that can come from re-looking at our dreams, rethinking our beliefs, looking at actually the flexibility we can allow ourselves to have in our inner core and our belief systems, and that it is only healthy to move beyond being fixed in a set of beliefs that maybe were fine for last year or even last week, but maybe they just don't suit the energy of today in whatever area we're thinking of. So look at your beliefs. Look at how this energy is triggering you, if it does today. What area of your life is being triggered by it? If you know where Mars in Scorpio is in your chart, what house it's in, that will give you a clue as to the life area. I'll just run quickly through each house and what it represents. So the first house if that's Mars in Scorpio for you. This is not natally, this is in transit. So if Scorpio is your first house, it's very much about you and the inner you. How you look at yourself, how you present yourself to the world. May not be the best time to blow your top or challenge people unless you're pretty certain of your evidence. The second house, of course, is about finances, economy, material possessions, and also how you feel about your self-worth. So that is another area that may be being highlighted with this energy. And the third house, of course, is about communication and your local neighborhood. Can also be literally travel, short distance travel, like cars and things. You know, if you get behind the wheel today, be careful, take it easy. Work it out on an internal level. Respond, don't react. The fourth house, Scorpio in the fourth, is all about the home, the family, ancestry. Maybe if you're being triggered by family, clear out a cupboard, clear out some clutter. Great use of this energy. The fifth house is creativity. Start writing a journal, write a book, paint a picture, play music, dance, do something physical, but don't trip over the furniture. The sixth house, service to others and health. So this could be a tricky placement. So make sure that if you have Scorpio and Mars transiting in the sixth house, that you don't overstretch yourself or overdo yourself. Just don't overdo things. If you need to rest, rest. Do the work on an internal level, not on an external level. The seventh house is about your significant relationships. It can also be business partners. And I think you have to look at how your relationships are standing at the moment. And this may not be the best time to react to triggers that are challenging authority or ideas or plans that you have that you want to set in place. So just be aware of that energy. The eighth house, other people's money, investments, inheritances, life, death, sex, intimacy. And it is a Scorpio house. So of course here, Mars is in his element. And that could make it even stronger energy that you act out unconsciously, rather than with dealing with it on an internal level. The ninth house, remember, is all about higher education, your spiritual and energetic sense of the all, the divine mind. You may be really avidly challenging your beliefs about your own spirituality. That would be good use of this energy. If you're traveling, because travel comes in this, watch out for problems, accidents. Doesn't have to be major, but it can be difficulties with travel. The 10th house, remember, is your career, your work, it's also about governments. And it's also, of course, about what your soul path is and what you are passionate about. So this energy there is, you can use it as a driving force to really achieve some significant goals in your career today and over the next few days. The 11th house, of course, is the collective. It's larger communities. It's technology and subjects that we're, intellectually stimulated by. And this may be that you find yourself having lively dialogue or just lively thoughts on an inner level. Being able to see not just the sun and the moon, but suddenly realizing that we have the stars. And not only that, we have all these interstellar objects that are at the moment hurtling through our solar system. And the amazing energy that that brings. And it's interesting because 3i Atlas, this interstellar object which has caused such discussion, debate and controversy over recent days, is more or less conjunct with Mars today. Now, I find that fascinating. I wonder whether we will get some interesting energy or news about 3i Atlas this week and where it's heading to. It is actually heading towards, at the moment, as far as I know, it's heading towards what they call its perihelion with the sun on October the 21st, which is actually when we get the new moon, the next new moon, and that'll be in Libra. And what's interesting is that it will be in an exact conjunction. It will be behind the sun. Then you get the sun. So that's 3i Atlas behind the sun, the moon, because it's a new moon in Libra, and the earth. But I'll talk more about that when we get the new moon, because I find that extraordinary astrology and very interesting. And then finally, of course, the 12th house is the inner you. You may find, if this is where Mars is transiting in Scorpio, in your 12th house, you may find that you really are having an inner battle with yourself, that struggle within, and just almost wanting to, tear your hair out, and just pulling away from the houses to a more collective understanding. This energy can make us fight with ourselves. And if you find yourself caught in inner dialogue where you are fighting with yourself, ask yourself, how does this serve me? Does this actually empower me? Or does it make me weak? Because all these things need to be looked at and ultimately let go of, because going round on a hamster wheel, on an internal wheel, on an internal level, and coming out right back where you started, you need to come back where you started and have a different awareness, not be back exactly where you started. So I've got some quotes, as always, which are a collection of quotes that reflect the benefits of inner struggle, because I think taking this on an inner level, this Mars square Pluto, is a really good use of this energy. And this is quotes about how this kind of energy can carve resilience. It can deepen our wisdom and reveal our hidden strengths. So the first set of 3 are about growth through struggle. Jean de la Bruyère said, "Out of difficulties grow miracles." This next one is a well-known one, and you will know it well, by Rumi. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." There's an African proverb, which I think I'm also familiar with, which is, "Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors." Well, that's the truth. And then we have 3 which are about strength and resilience. Bob Marley said, "You don't know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. And Albert Einstein said, adversity introduces a man to himself. There's an unknown one, which is strength grows in the moments when you think you can't go on, but you keep going anyway. And now we come to Pluto's transformation, and 3 quotes to help us with that. There's a Chinese proverb, which is, the gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. D.H. Sidebottom said, stars can't shine without darkness. And Lao Tzu said, what the caterpillar calls the end, the rest of the world calls a butterfly. And finally, we have 3 quotes which are about wisdom and depth. And the first one is Martin Luther King Jr. And this is another take on the same one about stars, which is, only in the darkness can you see the stars. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And finally, Buddha said, one who has conquered himself is greater than another who has conquered 1,000 in battle. And there's the difference between facing this on an internal level or facing it out there. So I hope that's been helpful. I think there's something about facing even buried truths. Remember, facing our shadow, reclaiming our power, using the discomfort as a catalyst for growth. So I think that, there's another quote here actually, which I'm just going to give you before I bring this to a conclusion, which is by Janet Fitch. And it's, the phoenix must burn to emerge. And I think that's a really good one to end this week's Astro Witter. What can I say? Remember, I have 2 other channels out there. If you want to check them out, there's Channeling and Stranger Things. The most recent video was the wonderful dialogue I had with the astrologer Steve Judd on crop circles, so check that out. I have the lovely Sue Brain, who also does videos with Steve Judd. She's going to come on Channeling and Stranger Things next week, and we're going to discuss matters around reincarnation and the any links that has with astrology. And also I have another interview lined up with a very good friend of mine, Christine Uriel, and she's going to be talking about Lemuria, that was also known as the ancient continent of Mu. And I'm not quite sure when that's going to be up, but we're going to be recording that soon. So lots in the pipeline, And if you want to see what I do in my downtime, go to Penny Dix, aka Abigail Brown, and you'll see numbers that I performed at the gig I did recently. First gig in 5 years. And it was wonderful fun and great therapy. So on that note, thanks so much for joining me. Remember, all those likes, comments and subscribes help with the algorithms. So please do like, comment and subscribe. And there's this other button that comes up, which is Hype this video, oh, press that too. I don't know, just pipe it. And because anything like that just helps with the algorithm. So I would be super grateful if you could do all those things. But in the meantime, stay cool with this Mars square Pluto energy. Don't let all those negative people get you down. We are all stronger than that. We are stronger than the rhetoric. We are stronger than people who have not dealt maybe very much on their inner level and their unconscious. And that's as far as I'm going to Witter today. And I'm going to go. Before I say something I might live to regret. Therefore, enacting Mars square Pluto. Bye for now. Bye.